Alright everyone, I got an interesting news tip yesterday actually from a clanker on Twitter DM. By the way, you can send me news tips. I always appreciate those. It makes my life a little bit easier. My life isn't easy. I work about 70 hours a week. But anyway, link in the description, well, two of them. The first is the Templeinstitute over in Israel is now reporting that they're looking into the possibility that they finally found the 10th Redheifer. The second link is to a video I made in 2014, which details the entirety of the basic premise of this prophecy, its religious significance, and why offering a red heifer, while I don't believe that it causes the Messiah to come out of the sky and lead the world into the Golden Age, or according to Islam, it could be Dajjal, which it could be, not the Antichrist, but the Great Deceiver, basically a doppelganger of the devil incarnate in physical form. It's close to the idea of an Antichrist, at least. The deceiver, the destroyer, basically. While I don't worry about that, I don't actually think that there is an Antichrist coming. If anything, there are a dozen of them in D.C. right now anyway, so we're suffering enough, I think. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has an odd sense of humor, incepting some of the forms of government that we see in the world today. Anyway, that's not the worry. My worry is that it could become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it ties in with the concept of the end times. Metaphoric, literal, there are different ways to interpret it. The Templeinstitute are extremely Orthodox Jews, by and large. But I think that some of their leadership are more grifting than anything else. In fact, I think in the end, they'll check this red heifer out. It'll generate a lot of buzz. They'll get a lot of investment. They've got a lot of backers, a lot of funding. And then they find 3 hairs on the red heifer that aren't the right color, and that alone disqualifies it. The laundry list of things that have to happen in order for a red heifer to be minted is pretty sheer. In fact, the fact that you've ever found one before that conforms to those highly legalistic standards is exceptional mathematically. It can't have more than 2 hairs of any other color other than that particular color of red. It's more of a reddish brown than anything else. So it has to be the right kind of cow. It can never have been laid to yoke. It can never have done any work. It has to have eaten a kosher diet. If it at one point accidentally ate a crab, therefore, it's not a red heifer. How you're going to prove one way or the other whether the farmer subverted you by feeding it some, old crab legs as a joke once remains to be seen. The problem is that if they were to offer it, it could cause hell to break loose because multiple Orthodox religions regard that basic premise as religiously important. Certain Christian groups, certain Jewish groups, not most, but the hyper-Orthodox, certain Islamic groups, certainly the Shia would be getting involved at that point. Oh my God, you're going to end the world. We got to speed up that rocket development because Dajjal might be coming back. Stuff like that. That's the problem. In the end, though, I think that they'll declare it's not a proper red heifer. They'll have a rabbi literally carefully look over every square inch of this cow to make sure that there aren't more than 2 hairs of any other color. The likelihood that you don't find 4 or 5 more is pretty low. So I think the world's probably not ending. You should probably check out, though, my other video from 2014 on the subject. I went through it as rigorously as I could to speak about the religious connotations, the potential civic implications, of course, and also the other problems there. I speculate also this. Let's say they offer the red heifer, so it gets killed in the kosher manner, it gets burned to ashes, the ashes are then used to anoint the temple and to anoint the people, and it purifies things awaiting the return of the Messiah. I mean, the first problem is you'd have to probably bulldoze the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That might not go over too well with the Palestinians in Israel, and the Israeli authorities would never allow it to happen. But let's say that they prevailed upon them and say, just let us burn our cow. And they offer it. Beyond the civil war aspect you'd probably be experiencing, when the Messiah doesn't come back, you run 2 risks. Number one, the Templeinstitute just says, obviously the Temple Mount, really, according to some historians this is true, obviously this isn't the real temple. It's actually, the Romans we've got to rebuild the whole thing now. We've got to rebuild the temple and do everything else. We've got to repair the foundation. Something's obviously wrong. And then, you kick the can down the road. The other possibility is they randomly find someone who loosely associates, as far as their own teachings go, with what they would consider to be the Jewish Messiah, and they mint them, and then they probably get assassinated, and then you have civil war anyway. You could have a million problems as the result of this kind of religious behavior. Go ahead and do it, but in the end, I think they'll declare that it's not really a Redheifer. This is what they did in 2014 with my first video about the subject. They declared that it wasn't really a Redheifer. It had, if I remember correctly, its hair was wrong. It wasn't quite the right color. And so they're like, oh, okay, well then, you're going to be turned into steaks. Congratulations, you failed God. Now go to the meat grinder. Probably what will happen. I wouldn't worry too much. But anytime that hyper-religious groups, especially ones with a lot of money, start to make wide-sweeping declarations and get people amped up, it can always be a problem. Again, if they were to prevail religiously, you would have to destroy several major archaeological sites in the process just to get the show on the road. And then if anything goes wrong, you're like, oh shit, we bulldozed the temple of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock in order to offer this cow. But at the last minute, the cow slipped on the steps and injured itself. It's no longer a perfect cow. We're sorry about that. The funny thing is that you could end up with such a scenario happening, simply because people are so religious in some circles of the world. I would warn against attempting to burn the Redheifer on the Temple Mount. I think that it would probably be a negative for the world. That's about all. Peace out.